All right, so I have everything hooked up, but I'm going to show you the problem I ran into with the steering box. Steering box, where your little nubs are, I think I'm going to have to knock those off to adjust the steering box to a different position. Welcome back to the community, everybody, and thank you all for being part of it. Today, we are going to go ahead and do some of the front suspension. And then I believe in about a week or so, we got to do the front apron, get the front fenders lined up, and weld the apron on. So we're going to progress rather quickly on a few things. But today, I'm going to do the front suspension, like your inner and outer tie rods, the sleeves. We're going to talk about the difference in nuts on there. It'll make sense when I say it. And I had to remove the steering box to do something. So when I put it back on, I'm going to show you the importance of the clamp. There's a direction for it. Okay, let's get on it. All right, so I'll bring you up close in 5 seconds here. We have I bought the tie rods with the new sleeves on them. So I'll bring you up and show you everything. We're going to change something on the steering box before we install it. So come here. All righty. So first things first, on the steering box, I'm going to change the rag joint. Old term, but you know what they are. We have the bracket here that bolts it's the clamp, I'm sorry, that holds the steering box to the front beam. On this clamp, you are going to see the numbers 13 and 14. See the arrows? Okay. What I'm going to explain to you is on this clamp, number 13 is for Volkswagen Beetle. Number 14 is for Karmann Ghia. So when you put this on and you bolt the clamp to the steering box, your 13, if you have a Beetle, the arrow should be pointed towards the front. So I hope that makes sense. If not, it's not going to line up. So that's something I wanted to tell you. And the rag joint is very important because they end up cracking and coming apart, and you lose your steering going down the road. I did purchase a Phoebe for $49 to $79. They sure didn't change them much, did they? This one's kind of like squared off. Factory is oval. They still line up. No big deal. I forget, somebody recently on one of the clubs bought a different one, really, really high quality, but I can't remember where it was. Make sure you please buy good quality. That's your steering. We have our tie rods with the new sleeves, brandy new, right there. And this I'll take out of the box momentarily. That is our steering dampener. So we want to get all this on today to get that out of the way. One thing I did want to tell you, on your tie rod ends, mine is a May of 68, with 68 and up on some of them. They went to the 19 millimeter nut on the tie rods, which would be for a ball joint front end. If you have tie rods on your ball joint beam that are 17 millimeter, they're for a link pin front end. So there's things that you need to know like that. Little things along the way. And the only reason I brought that up is there's been some confusion with that, where somebody has a 68 and says, my tie rod, something's wrong when they're putting drop spindles on or what have you, that it's not fitting. That's why. So in a certain predicament, if you have a 17 millimeter nut, which is a tie rod from a link pin, and you bought a drop spindle for your 68, and all of a sudden you're like, what is going on? Why won't this fit? That is basically because you need the upgraded version, so to speak, with the 19 millimeter nut on it, and then it will fit your ball joint front end. All right, enough tutoring. So we're going to go ahead and change our rag joint first, and I'll go over a couple things with that, and then we're going to go ahead, put that in the car, and start putting our front suspension in. If you need to know, there is the part number. And that is Phoebe. Hey, Phoebe. Okay. Let's take it out. A lot of people like these. We'll see how it holds out. Made in Germany. SGF 95. Seems hard as a rock. I thought it would be a little bit soft, which is odd. First, I'm going to take a little steel brush and just get some of the crap off of the nut. That is the hookup for your horn wire. So make sure you don't forget to put that back on. And I left my PB Blast down the house. Great. Okay. Let's try to pop these off. All right. I'll try to work from behind the camera so you see up close and personal. Oop. Okay. That is the first one. And remember, do not lose your horn clip, your horn wire clip. There we go. I'm trying to look through the camera when I film behind it, which makes it difficult. And no, I did not wire wheel the whole steering box and paint it because it's a driver. It's cleaned up. I gutted the inside, cleaned it all up, put new fresh grease in. I can't get this off. Okay. We're going to clean these up real good, though. Let's check the other side and get it loose. Holy trees. Wow. That one is on there. Well, it's probably been on it for 50 years, so we'll clean them threads up real good. Oops. Come on. So it's like new when we're done. Yeah. I don't want to bugger the threads up. Yeah, this is going to need cleaned up really good, these threads. There's the washer for that. Yeah, these get crappy after a while. Not a big deal. We'll go ahead and wire wheel, clean it all up. The other side's stuck too. Okay. Come on. Alrighty. This one actually is very old. I think it's every 6,000 miles you're supposed to check these. So there are some cracks starting. So it's a good idea to get it changed out. All right. So take these. Every piece you see here and wire wheel them. It'll take it from that to that. Isn't that nicer? When you do those little things, it makes life easy. It really does. Alrighty, so we are going to put our new rag joint on. Make sure you have your, it's like a little star locking washer on your bolt. We'll put this one in first. And our little wavy washer. Don't forget your wavy lock washer. These are locking nuts. I didn't know if you caught that earlier. I don't believe I really said anything about it, though. Okay, let's turn this. And I put a new one on this. I keep a lot of that stuff on hand. There wasn't one on it. I don't know what was up with that. So turn that this way. Now don't forget the clip for your horn wire. I'll show you in a second. Put your washer on. And your nut. Wow, this is hard working from behind, reaching around the camera. Okay, now, if in fact this clip isn't in the right position when you get down in there with the horn wire, you can always loosen this slightly and turn it to where it needs to be. So we snap our 14 millimeter on there and try to keep out of your way. There is a torque spec. I won't give that out. You can look it up, or I'll post it right here. I don't really like giving torque specs a whole lot. Now this is turning. I can always reposition it. I just wanted this tightened right now. Okay, spin it around. Tighten your next one up. Make sure you put the wrench on the head of it. There you go. Actually, the torque spec is not that heavy on this. Oddly enough, you think it would be crazy high because it's to the steering. Okay. I'm so used to doing them by hand. Now remember, this is for your horn wire. So once you get it in the vehicle, give yourself some space to get in there and loosen this and adjust the tab to where you need it to be to plug the horn wire on. I'm going to go ahead and clean up the bolts, a few things to mount the box on, and we'll go ahead and get under the car and start getting the suspension put together with the steering box. All right, so I'm coming in from the front of the car. I have to set the steering box in there. Then we'll get our clamp and get it bolted up first. All right, so we are under the car, and I'll bring you into a better view once I get the bolts in, because I don't know how well you can see this. Wait, I gotta have, whew, almost put it on backwards. Remember, number 13 needs to be pointed forward of the car. I know I'm probably in front of you. That little washer, I may be in front of you temporarily. A pain in the butt. Oh, come on. But the steering box is in. Sorry about that. That was extremely difficult to get a camera inside of there. And of course, it's going to line up with my steering column. Okay, I'm going to show you something about this steering box versus the front beam I got. But in the meantime, let's get our tie rod for the driver's side. That's a 19 millimeter locking nut. And let's go to the outside. Okay, we have the other end on a pitman arm on the steering box. We're going to thread the 19 millimeter nut on. And remember, that's a locking nut. This is how you adjust the front end alignment, which we'll be doing that together in our own garage. Now, when you're putting this in, this is the passenger side tie rod assembly. Make sure this bushing is on the driver's side near the steering box. Take your 19 millimeter nut, locking nut, I should say. All right, we're going to hook up to the passenger side. I left the nut on the bench. Okay. Your 19 on there. Now let's move over to the steering dampener. Now this is your steering dampener. You can pull this out as far as you want, because when you hook this in, you'll be pushing it in to line up the bolt. You'll see what I mean. So you're going to come in here, put this through just like that. All right. You will take your 17 millimeter nut. It should come with one. Most of them do. You're going to tighten that. I'll show you the reason I'm not tightening with wrenches right now. Then there is a jam nut that comes with it. So you put that on next after this is tight and tighten your jam nut. All right, so I've got to run and get the proper bolt, but to finish this video, it is a 10 by 1.5, but the one I'm using, that one's too short. All right, so I stopped and ran down a salvage yard and got these. That's what I needed. I got to straighten this out. That goes through there to hold the steering dampener to the front beam. It was easier to get an original. Okie dokie. So we have our steering dampener, and you want to put this on there just like that. You're going to put your bolt through. Come on. It's winding through that bracket. There we go. Just want to make sure I had it on straight. Okay, let's stretch that a little. Let me try something in a minute. I don't know if that'll work. There we go. Now, I'm not going to do this yet, but what you do is you bend this up around the bolt, this tab. You push this up, push that up, and it keeps the bolt from turning back out. So that's in there. That's the bracket and bolt I needed. Now you can see where the bolts are, okay? It was hard to get you up in here while I was tightening it. There's the one there, and the other one is right there behind your pitman arm. Okay, you just have to turn the pitman arm back and forth when you're tightening them. Now I am underneath the front of the car, and I want to show you something here. If you've noticed, there is the stopper on the beam, okay? And there's adjustable bolts on there. I'll show you from up top in a moment. When I'm turning the wheel to the left, this arm is supposed to sweep inside of here, and you adjust the bolt to where you want it to stop so you can't turn it too far. All right, so I have everything hooked up, but I'm going to show you the problem I ran into with the steering box. And maybe somebody out there has experienced this. I have always ran stock beams. I had 2.5-inch drop spindles once, but no big deal. It was on this car. I should have kept that 72. But anyhow, this is my first 2-inch narrowed adjustable beam. The steering box where your little nubs are, yeah, those ones. I think I'm going to have to knock those off to adjust the steering box to a different position and then re-weld the little nubs back on. I guess they should be on there. I don't know. I'll show you what I mean. All right, so I'm under the front of the car, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. This is the pitman arm, okay? This part comes over, and when you turn your wheel, let's say counterclockwise, like you're making a left turn, this arm should slide back inside of here against your stop, and then you can adjust the stop to where you want it to be. Mine is hitting this bracket right here, so I cannot make a left-hand turn. The wheels are technically straight right now, so to speak. I'm thinking that these nubs on the steering bracket, I'm around the other side right now. Remember where we talked about 14 and 13? Now 13 is pointing towards the front of the car, but see your little nubs here that are on your beam, okay? And that is slotted, the bracket, to hold it in place so the steering box can't move left or right. So I guess they're absolutely necessary. However, I think I'm going to have to knock these nubs off and relocate the steering box to where it should be. Let me go up top. I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so I found a piece of rebar, and I'll probably put my steering box or my steering column in a few days, just loosely bolted to check it. But that right there seems like it's coming out about straight. See where the steering box is? It needs pushed over. So has anybody else ran into this? I'll lower this easy, where those nubs need relocated, because that's definitely why it's hitting. That is why that arm is hitting for sure. So it looks like I need to move the steering box over to the right a little bit. I'm going to bring my steering column up tomorrow and check it. But I only have about a little over a 1/4 inch space there. So I'm hoping when I slide the steering box over, it's enough space. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I wasn't going to sleep tonight, that's for sure, until I did this. So I went ahead and installed the steering column, and when I level it to about where it should be, hopefully you can see what I'm talking about. See that? So I'm going to knock the tabs off of the beam and relocate the steering box and try it. Give me 1 second. All right, so I removed the steering box. Here's one of the nubs. That's the only one I'm worried about because I got to move that way to the passenger side. So I'm going to see if I can knock that nub off. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. This here goes on here. So you see the nub there and there. And that's what holds the steering box in place. I'm going to need to knock this nub off to move it over so I can tilt the steering box up a little and over towards the passenger side. I hope there's enough clearance, and I hope it works. We'll find out in a second. Almost. Oh. Okay. I'm going to have to grind that smooth. Give me a second. All right, so I knocked that nub off, and I used a little sanding drum on my Dremel and ground it smooth. So let's see if everything will line up now. All right, so it's 10:30 at night, and I got it fixed. Like I showed you, I knocked that nub off of there and ground it smooth. Yes, I am going to take it back apart and clean that area up and prime and paint it so it don't rust. I guess I should weld another nub in the new location. I don't know if it's necessary or not, just like the padded dash on these. Okay, let me show you real quick. I'm tired. All right, I'll show you the column in a minute and everything, but you can see how smooth. I don't have the tie rods tightened up or anything, but now we're going back and forth real smooth. Wheels are turning all the way. So that was a good thing. Here, we'll go around and take a look. All right, so if you can remember before, this arm was hitting this bracket, it wouldn't clear it. So the pitman arm was hitting the bracket. We knocked the nub off and we moved the steering box to the passenger side. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the steering again, and you can see how smooth it is, and it's not hitting. So I'm turning it to the right. I have to adjust the stops, the bolts on them. And then we're turning it to the left, and you can see now it's not hitting. So that is perfect. Now I'm going to have to adjust these stops. I don't even know if these are the bolts to them. I just threw them in real quick so that it has a stop that it leans against, so to speak. I'm tired. I'm not even talking right. It's been a long day. One thing I am going to show you too, once we get this front end complete, is how to do the front end alignment at home. I did it on the last car, worked perfect. It's actually very easy to do, especially when your parts are newer and everything spins really free. So I would advise you to weld a nub back in place of where the other one was. That's entirely up to you, if you even have to do what I did. But most likely some of you are going to run into this when you get a new beam. Brazilian, whatever they are. It's going to happen. All right, that was fun. I spent a lot of hours in this garage today. Now I got to clean it up tomorrow. When relocating them nubs, you know, be gentle on your beam. Don't act like an idiot and start chiseling a hole in the beam. Take your time and do it right, and then grind it smooth, touch it up with paint so it don't rust there. I think we're good now. That's happened before to other beams that I just found out on the phone with somebody. So, okay, let's continue on. I hope everybody had an amazing Thanksgiving. I hope you spent time with your family and your friends. I'll see you tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on the YouTube live chat club meeting. I need a nap.